In the history of human survival, there are moments when everything hangs in the balance, when civilization faces an invisible enemy. We've fought these battles before, from the devastating grip of polio to the unprecedented challenge of COVID-19. But how do we get from a terrifying disease to a life-saving vaccine? The answer lies in one of the most controversial and courageous acts in medicine.
We're talking about human trials, the moments when science leaves the lab and enters the human body.
This is the story of the breakthroughs, the risks, and the ordinary people who volunteered to save us all.
Before we look at the miracles of modern medicine, we have to understand the darkness they pushed back.
In the mid-20th century, summer wasn't just a season. It was a time of terror. Polio was the monster under the bed.
It struck without warning, paralyzing tens of thousands of children every single year, confining many to machines just to breathe.
The fear was palpable. Parents kept their children indoors, isolated, praying their family wouldn't be next. The world needed a hero. And they found one in a brilliant, relentless virologist named Jonas Salk. Salk had a radical idea, a killed virus vaccine. It was safer in theory, but convincing the establishment was a massive fight. Science requires proof. And with a disease this rampant, the only way to get that proof was to test it on healthy children.
This wasn't just any trial. It was the largest mobilization of volunteers in American peacetime history.
Nearly 2 million children, known as the Polio Pioneers, stepped up to take part in this unprecedented experiment. But this wasn't just a vaccine rollout. It was a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, the gold standard of medical research. That means nobody, not the doctors, not the parents, not the children, knew who was getting the real vaccine and who was getting salt water. Imagine making that choice for your child. It was a leap of faith based entirely on trust in science.
The logistics were staggering, keeping the vaccine at the perfect temperature, tracking data from millions of children, all without computers.
Then, the agonizing wait. An entire summer passed. The data had to be collected, analyzed, and verified.
April 12, 1955, the day the results were announced. The world held its breath.
The verdict? Safe, potent, and effective. The vaccine worked. It was a monumental triumph for science. Church bells rang across the nation. People flooded the streets, hugging and celebrating. The fear was finally over. And Jonas Salk? He refused to patent the vaccine. He wanted it to belong to everyone, a gift to humanity. But the story of the polio vaccine doesn't end there. Because even the greatest triumphs can have unforeseen consequences. Just weeks after the rollout, disaster struck. A tragedy known as the Cutter incident. A manufacturing error at Cutter Laboratories released a batch of vaccines containing live polio virus. Hundreds were paralyzed. Some died. It was a devastating blow to public confidence, a reminder of the risks involved in rapid medical progress. But science didn't stop. They learned from the tragedy. Regulations were tightened. Manufacturing processes were overhauled. The vaccine program restarted, stronger and safer. Soon, this terrifying disease was virtually eradicated worldwide. The lessons learned from polio shaped the future of medicine. Human trials evolved, becoming more ethical, more rigorous, and more transparent. But this evolution wasn't always voluntary. History is sadly littered with unethical experiments that exploited vulnerable populations. Tragedies like Tuskegee led directly to the Belmont Report in the 1970s, a landmark document that established the ethical principles guiding all human research today. Respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. These are the pillars ensuring that trials prioritize the safety and autonomy of the volunteers.
Today, every trial goes through rigorous phases. Phase 1 for safety, Phase 2 for effectiveness, and Phase 3 for large-scale comparison.
And overseeing it all are independent review boards, the watchdogs of medical ethics, ensuring the risks never outweigh the potential benefits.
Fast forward to late 2019. A new, invisible enemy emerges, spreading across the globe with terrifying speed.
COVID-19 paralyzed the world. Lockdowns, overflowing hospitals, and a rising death toll. The pressure on the scientific community was immense. We needed a vaccine faster than ever before in human history. The typical timeline of 10 to 15 years had to be compressed into months. Enter Operation Warp Speed, a massive, controversial, but ultimately necessary mobilization of resources and scientific brainpower. And this time, science had a new weapon in its arsenal: mRNA technology, a revolutionary approach that had been developed for decades. Unlike the Salk vaccine, mRNA doesn't use the virus itself. It simply gives our bodies the instructions to recognize and fight the enemy. But the fundamental challenge remained the same as in 1954. Science needed volunteers, they needed human trials, and they needed them immediately. And once again, humanity stepped up. Tens of thousands across the globe volunteered, united by one goal: to end the pandemic. These trials were conducted under the most intense public scrutiny in history. Every piece of data, every side effect was analyzed in real time. Many were skeptical. How could a vaccine developed this quickly possibly be safe? Was the process rushed? Were corners cut? Here's the critical point. The science wasn't rushed. The mRNA technology was ready. It was the bureaucracy and the manufacturing that were accelerated. The clinical trials themselves followed the same rigorous phase 1, 2, and 3 structure established decades earlier. No ethical shortcuts were taken. Just like with Salk, the world waited for the results. Would this new technology work? Would it end the pandemic? The results were staggering. Over 90% efficacy, a spectacular success that exceeded everyone's expectations.
December 2020. The first emergency use authorizations were granted. The rollout began immediately.
Healthcare workers, the heroes on the front lines, were the first to receive the vaccine. A moment of hope in the midst of the crisis. This was a logistical nightmare. Maintaining the ultra-cold chain while distributing millions of doses required a massive wartime effort. From major stadiums to local pharmacies, a mobilization of public health workers and volunteers ensured the vaccine reached the people. For millions, the vaccine was more than just protection. It was a ticket back to life, a chance to hug their grandchildren, a return to normalcy. But the rollout wasn't without its challenges. Misinformation, vaccine hesitancy, and the deep political divisions created significant hurdles. Public health officials faced the difficult task of building trust, communicating complex science clearly, and convincing a skeptical population. But this fight extends beyond our borders. Vaccine inequity means billions are still waiting for their first dose. The virus continues to evolve. Variants emerge, challenging the effectiveness of the vaccines and demanding constant vigilance. Science must stay one step ahead. Researchers are already working on next-generation vaccines, booster shots, and new therapies. As we navigate this complex landscape, we must remember the foundation of all these breakthroughs: the volunteers. Who are these people? Why do they choose to accept the risks, to offer their bodies for the advancement of science? For some, it's a sense of duty, a way to contribute to the greater good, much like the Polio Pioneers of the past. For others, it's deeply personal. They have lost loved ones to the disease and want to prevent further suffering. Crucially, many volunteer to ensure vaccines work for everyone. Diverse representation is critical for accurate medical research. Participating in a trial is not without sacrifice. It involves time, discomfort, and the inherent risk of the unknown. These volunteers are the silent heroes of medicine. Without them, scientific progress stops dead in its tracks. From polio to COVID, the journey of vaccines reveals a complex interplay between scientific brilliance, human courage, and the critical importance of trust. Trust in science is not blind faith. It is earned through transparency, rigorous testing, and a commitment to ethical principles. The mistakes of the past, like Cutter and Tuskegee, are stark reminders. Science is a human process, capable of both miracles and failures. But it is the ability of science to learn, adapt, and correct its course that allows us to move forward, safer and stronger than before. The next pandemic is not a matter of if, but when. Will we be ready? Will we trust the science and each other? The story of vaccines is still being written, and we are all part of the narrative, through our choices, our actions, and our commitment to the truth. Ultimately, the human trials that created vaccines are more than just medical experiments. They are a testament to our collective will to survive. A reminder that when science and humanity come together, driven by courage and compassion, we can overcome even the darkest of times. Thanks for watching this incredible journey through medical history. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video.